You ever have one of those moments where your brain just freezes because someone tries to rewrite reality right in front of your face? That's exactly what I experienced the morning I heard the gut-wrenching sound of metal colliding outside my house, only to discover Karen's teenage son had slammed his SUV straight into the side of my perfectly parked car. But here's the wild part. Instead of apologizing, they had the nerve to claim that I was the one at fault, saying my car was illegally parked. What they didn't realize was that one lie was about to cost them big. It had been a calm Saturday, the kind where sunlight streamed through my living room window and everything felt peaceful. My car, a silver Toyota Camry I'd worked hard to keep spotless, sat parked right in front of my house, legally, just like it always had. I'd lived there for years without a single problem. But that quiet morning turned upside down in seconds. The first sound was a crash, sharp and sickening, followed by the screech of brakes. My heart leapt into my throat as I bolted outside. There it was. My Camry caved in on one side, paint scraped down to bare metal, and shattered taillight pieces scattered like glass confetti across the asphalt. Behind the wheel of the SUV that had caused the mess sat none other than Jake, Karen's 16-year-old son. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his wide eyes screaming guilt. Before I could even get a word out, Karen herself came marching from across the street like she was about to take center stage in some dramatic soap opera. She didn't check on her son. She didn't ask if anyone was hurt. She went straight into attack mode, finger pointed at me. "Your car shouldn't even be parked there. You're blocking the road," she barked. I blinked, stunned. Blocking the road? My car was tucked neatly against the curb, right where everyone else parked, not even close to causing an obstruction. The street was plenty wide for two cars to pass, but logic wasn't Karen's strong suit. Her son was in the wrong, and she was desperate to spin the story. Jake sat frozen, silent, while Karen went on a tirade about how she was going to hold me responsible for leaving my car in such a dangerous spot. By then, other neighbors had already cracked their doors open, watching the circus unfold. From their faces, I could tell. They knew exactly who was lying. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started snapping photos. The damage, the skid marks, the exact position of my car. Everything. Karen tried to block me, flapping her hands in front of the camera, screeching, "Don't you dare!" But the evidence was already secured, and little did she know, every shot I took was a nail in the coffin of her ridiculous claim. The air was thick with tension. Jake eventually climbed out of the SUV, his face flushed with embarrassment. He mumbled, "It was an accident," but his mom cut him off instantly. "No, it wasn't your fault. That car shouldn't have been there," she snapped, glaring at me as if I'd personally set a trap for her kid. I didn't take the bait. I kept recording every angle, close-ups of the damage, photos of the street signs, even measuring the distance from my car to the nearest corner. I knew Karen's type. She'd pulled nonsense before, calling the city about imaginary violations, filing bogus noise complaints when neighborhood kids played basketball, even threatening to tow a neighbor's car just because she thought it was ugly. She thrived on control. But this time, facts were not on her side. Insurance companies don't care about neighborhood drama. They care about evidence. As I documented everything, Mrs. Lewis, our longtime neighbor, easily in her... She's walked over. She raised her voice just enough for Karen to hear. "Sweetheart, you've parked in that spot for years. There's nothing illegal about it." Karen's cheeks turned red, but instead of admitting defeat, she doubled down. "Well, I'm calling. The police. We'll see what they say," she shot back. I shrugged. "Go ahead." Honestly, I welcomed it. More documentation only made my case stronger. 10 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up. Out stepped Officer Daniels, a tall man with a calm, no-nonsense presence. He asked what happened, and I explained, clear, straightforward. I was inside, heard the crash, came outside, and found Jake had hit my legally parked car. Karen, of course, cut in with her dramatic flair, insisting I had parked illegally and forced her son to swerve. Officer Daniels didn't take her word for it. He walked around my car, checked the curb, measured the distance from the intersection, and studied the street layout. Then he turned to Karen. "Ma'am, this vehicle is parked well within the legal limit. It's properly aligned with the curb. There's no violation here." You could almost see steam rising from Karen's head. But he was blocking. "Traffic!" she sputtered. Officer Daniels stayed firm. "No, ma'am. This is a residential street. Cars can pass easily. The responsibility falls on your son, who was driving." That shut her down for the moment, but I could see it in her eyes. This battle wasn't over, and I was right. Because as soon as the officer filed the report and left, Karen pivoted to her next move. Her tone softened unnaturally, her face stretching into a fake smile. "Listen," she said sweetly, "why don't we just handle this between neighbors? No need to get insurance involved. Jake's a good kid. He just panicked. We can work something out." I knew exactly what she was doing, trying to sweep it under the rug, maybe toss me a little cash so I'd let it go. But one glance at the deep dent in my Camry told me this was no cheap fix. The repairs would cost thousands. I shook my head, firm and steady. "No," I said. "This is going through insurance." Karen's fake smile vanished like a switch had been flipped. Her eyes narrowed to thin slits, and her tone turned venomous. "If you do that, I'll tell them you were parked illegally. They'll put you at fault." I almost laughed out loud. She really thought her bluff would scare me. Calmly, I raised my phone and showed her the dozens of photos I'd already taken, time-stamped, crystal clear. "Good luck with that," I said flatly. Her face darkened. Without another word, she spun on her heels, dragging poor Jake back toward their house while muttering threats under her breath. A few days later, I officially started the insurance process. I called my provider, sent over the photos, and gave them the police report number. They reassured me that it was an open and shut case, and I believed them, until I got the phone call that made me realize Karen wasn't done playing games. The Yas. Claims adjuster said, "The other party is contesting liability. They're claiming your vehicle was parked illegally and caused their son to hit it." My jaw nearly hit the floor. She'd actually gone through with her lie. But here's the thing about insurance companies. They don't rely on sob stories. They investigate. And I had armed them with a mountain of evidence. I forwarded every photo, every measurement, and even a short video I'd taken showing how much room cars still had to pass. I also gave them Mrs. Lewis's contact information, since she'd witnessed everything. Meanwhile, Karen was busy poisoning the well, telling everyone in the neighborhood that I was scamming her family for money. But that move backfired too. Several of my other neighbors, fed up with years of her bullying, offered to give written statements. They confirmed what everyone already knew. My car had been legally parked there for years without issue. At that point, this stopped being about a dented Camry. It became about principle. About standing up to someone who thought they could bully and lie their way out of accountability. And I had no idea the final twist would sting Karen harder than any repair bill ever could. Weeks went by as the insurance companies sorted through the mess. I stayed patient, knowing I had truth on my side. Karen, on the other hand, grew more bitter by the day. She no longer shouted across the street. She just glared from her porch, her face twisted in frustration. Jake avoided me entirely, shuffling past with his head down. Honestly, watching her unravel under the weight of her own lies was almost comical. Then came the letter from my insurance company. I opened it, half expecting more delays, but instead the result was clear as day. The accident was 100% Jake's fault. Their insurance was responsible not only for the full repair cost of my Camry, but also for the rental car I had been driving during the repairs. And the cherry on top? Because Karen had tried to contest the claim with false information, her insurance flagged her behavior as fraudulent. That meant extra penalties, fines, and higher premiums. Her bluff didn't just fail, it exploded right in her face. When I picked up my Camry from the repair shop, the final bill made me laugh out loud. The total came out higher than I expected, over $4,000, plus rental coverage. Karen's insurance. Had to pay every penny. In the end, they shelled out almost double what it would have cost if she had just admitted fault from the start. The next time I saw her, she didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just scowled in silence, her pride shattered. Jake kept his head down like he wished he could disappear. And the neighbors? They were delighted. For years, Karen had nitpicked, complained, and acted like she owned the street. But this time, her arrogance had finally come back to bite her. Mrs. Lewis even walked over and said with a smile, "Good for you, dear. People like her need to be taught a lesson." Sliding into my freshly repaired Camry, its paint shining like new, I couldn't help but feel pure satisfaction. Not just because the car was fixed, but because justice had actually been served. Karen had tried to twist the truth, bully me, and bury me under her lies. Instead, she ended up paying double, losing credibility with the neighborhood, and staring down a brutal hike in her insurance rates. Sometimes karma doesn't take years. It shows up with the next billing cycle. And as for me, I still park in the exact same legal spot every day, without moving an inch. Because I know now, no matter how loud Karen screams, the truth is louder. Karen thought she could twist reality, but in the end, the truth always wins. So if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because you won't want to miss the next shocking one.